Hello and welcome to this session. Microsoft Project by the example is one way to learn. It's easy. You don't need to have a lot of knowledge about Microsoft Project, but we will give you really important information. I'm Christian from Vision 6D, and today's topic is about the baseline. The baseline in a project is a moment when you are ready with the plan of the project and you are preparing to get the approval. To get the approval at that moment, we usually do what is called a baseline. A baseline is like taking a picture of the plan we want to execute into the project. It's a plan on which the project manager is engaging. He is going to perform as defined in that plan. Of course, we all know that this is difficult. There are moments when we have unexpected things and there are things that are happening. For this, we will need to have reserves. We will need to have margins in the project, and for this reason, before to baseline the project, before to go in front of a steering committee to get their approval and budget, it's a good thing to review the plan. So we are going to review the plan of the project that is here up. This project is a CRM project, Customer Relation Management System. A customer relation management system is a system that you use from the moment you do marketing for a product, for service, for material, and you can do things like social network marketing, digital marketing, sensibilization of the customer. You are going after prospects, and then this is going to move into sales. I'm just putting down my device, and with that you can sell product and you do the follow-up of the sales. From the moment you do offers to the moment the sales, the purchase order, all that, you can follow it up with a CRM software. So I'm in a context where that company wants a CRM software because they have different systems running for marketing, for sales, and I haven't spoken about support because of course tech support is also using the CRM software in the future to be able to look at what customer have as devices or have purchased as services, and like that they know also the history of the customer. So with that I have a plan of such a project in which we will first evaluate the different possible solutions that do exist on the market. After that we will install the system that we've chosen, and then we will run some tests, train the users, the integrators, the IT people, that everything is ready to go into production. So this is a global overview of this project. This is the way to go into this project. So now I'm going to give you some more details by going directly in front of my computer and starting to do the work with MS Project. So here I am in front of MS Project, and I will at the same time look if everything is running smoothly with the transmission. And I use that moment to greet you all, those that participate. You are welcome. This is a session with the chat that is open, so you can use this to ask some question. It's a live session. I will keep it on the side here, so let me just a few seconds to organize my desktop. Here we go. So everything seems to be okay. So what you see here behind me, it's in fact the MS Project file of this project. Of course, it's a simplified version that we can do everything within the time of this session that we have. So I will just open a few things more. And here you see our project is defined with different stages: initiation, planning, execution, and a project closing, with before a production which is set as a date to the 29th of April. So first of all those tasks which are here, I will enlarge here the column in the middle. And we will see that some information was hidden for the moment. So you see, this project is a project where we've defined the budget. This project is a project that I use already in several of my trainings that are online and that are freely available online. So here we have now all the tasks that are defined for the project. We also have all the tasks that are assigned. We have the schedule, the logic of the project, how the tasks should follow one another. And we have here two columns in which we've defined the budget. You see that the budget is defined in two parts: a budget for work, the number of hours that will be worked into this project, and the costs. We have about 1,500 hours of work involved into this project, and we have a spending, and I call it like that, a spending of 23,000 euros. Why do I say spending? Because it's not exactly the cost, it's what has really to be billed and has to go through bills, through the accounting, into this project. There are companies that consider that their budget or cost of the project is only composed of what they pay for goods, services that will come into the project, but they don't consider the internal resources, their colleagues, the human internal resources as costs. They consider them as being working elements, and for this there is a work budget. So some companies, they use those two components when they are preparing a budget for a project. You see here we have another column with the costs, where it's way higher. The total cost is 175,300 euros, and this is really calculating the 23,000, which are the costs of what will be billed, plus the internal resources defined at different cost rates. So there are companies, for example, in that situation where they convert all their internal co-workers by saying everyone is costing 1,000 euros a day. So this is one way to do it. You can say 600, 800. This is just to have a comparison and a possibility to have really a realistic total cost of the project. Because of course, when you are at the point where people must decide whether to go ahead with the project, it's way easier to compare a project that is 175,300 euros than a project that is 1,500 hours of work plus 23,000 euros of costs. So many companies, many organizations, anyway, they bring this to a total amount of cost in order first to prioritize project and then to decide whether they give the go-ahead to a project. I'm just willing here to see something different, because actually I do not see the chat, so I would like to be able to see the chat at the same time. I think it's on its right way. YouTube had some changes, and the software I'm using had also some changes, so it's not so easy to do the new diffusion of live streams. So let me say hello to everyone. And welcome to the session. Feel free to say hi. I'm glad I'm located in Geneva, Switzerland, and I'm saying hello to you. So, this is now going on. I want to continue this activity. And I was saying that we are now currently here in front of this planning. So I explained the two different ways to do budget. So that's the reason why you see those different columns which are present here. And you see that on the Gantt chart, I have assigned resources. So resources, while I'm talking about resources, I'm going to show you the resource sheet that you can look at the different resources involved into the project. So first of all, I have some stakeholders who are the leaders of the departments or the CEO. There are some project managers symbolized by PM1, PM2. We have some developers that we are not using at the current stage of the project. We have integrators. Integrators are people from the IT. They are engineers. They know how to install the application. They know how to install databases, how to insert this, integrate this with the authentication systems. And we have users which are from the different departments that will be here to do the tests. And we have accountant for the part which will concern the sales, and we have a few external consultants that can intervene into the project. So all of those, they are what we call resources of type work. And a resource of type work is a human being normally, and there is a certain rate per hour that we are going to pay or that this resource is going to cost. So it is based on those elements that here in the Gantt chart we have the cost column. It means that for each task, we have some defined resources that have a certain hour rate, and they are going to work a certain number of hours, which is defined in the duration here, in the duration column, where you see days or weeks. So the current day is 8 hours, and the current weeks, they are 40 hours. So by doing those calculations, it's how MS Project managed to get here to the costs. So we have a project that is defined as such, and we can see it also here up when we go into the report, when we go and look at the project overview in the current stage. We see that there are all the tasks that are defined here, and I will take here another dashboard. It's the cost overview, where we see the cost of the project, and here down in that table we have all the different phases, and we have the cost of each phase, which is defined here. And here on the graphical part, you see also the cost of the different phases. And of course, it's execution and realization that costs the most. So here I'm now back to the Gantt chart. And in this Gantt chart, you will see that I can now come down here, and I would like to be sure that you see what I'm going to show. And for this, I need to do a slight change on the screen. Like that, you don't see me for a while. So you see here that we have one task which is in pink. That color, or a red, a light red, it's showing me which task is on the critical path. So you see that we have just one task on the critical path. Let me first say that this is a good sign in a project. It means that all the other tasks, they have somehow a margin, which is good at the stage where we are in the project, because it means that if something happens, there is some way where we can maybe compensate what happened. So first of all, let me just explain the critical path. It's all the tasks that are in red in the MS Project way to show it. They are meaning the following: if those tasks are delayed, then the delivery of the project is also delayed by the same amount of time. So, which means, in our case, that if that reddish task, which is when we do the production run, is delayed, in fact, the resulting here, the closing of the project might be delayed. Otherwise, when we look at those other tasks, if they are delayed, this won't influence the deadline of the project, because we have a certain margin. We see here where I'm showing with the cursor, there is some space. Just need to check one point again. So what I'm going to do with you You see, we have here a task which is the task number 9, which follows the one in which we do the requirements. Then we have the solution evaluation. We've projected or planned, we estimated, this is the right word, we estimated that that work would last during 2 weeks, meaning 10 days. And you see that people involved is accountant 1, integrator, PM 1, and user 1. So we are going to look now if instead of being 2 weeks, what happens in our plan if we set this to 3 weeks. So let me just explain before to do that, why am I doing this regarding the baseline. What I'm doing now is that I'm checking my planning to see whether it resists to some influences, to some risks, like the risk that the solution evaluation is not 2 weeks, but 3 weeks. I want to see what happens in my planning. So let me put here 3 weeks. And we've seen here that the task has been prolonged, the one here up, the number 9. And you see that here down, the margin has absorbed all the delay we had. So it means that the project, how it is really resistant to the prolongation of one task by 1 week. So this is what happened. So if now I would say here, it's not 3 weeks, but something went really differently than what we expect, we were delayed, and this, let's say it went up to 5 weeks. Let's say something. It's a test. We can, and you can really simulate anything in a project with this. So I'm doing here, you see, we really moved this by 2 additional weeks. All the others were displaced like that. And you see here down that we should have expected here this task to have some reaction, something should be here. We see that here some of the tasks, they are almost happening at the end of the in production phase or period. So it clearly means that we don't have the tasks on the critical path, but they should be. They should really be. So do you see there is something maybe missing here into this project? Because for me, some of those tasks, they should really be on the critical task. So what it is, it's that you see that our last task here doesn't have any link apart from the milestone when we have to go into production. They don't have any link with any other task. So we also have here some over allocation that appeared, but it's not this that concerns me at the moment. So I know, of course, what's wrong here, but what I wanted you to understand, it's not because all the tasks are in blue that really your project is okay. This is because there is something missing in my project and I'm going to correct this. And what is missing, it's that I do not have a link between the milestone of the 29th of April with the end of this task, which is, you see, the task 17, which is the test of the functions of the CRM. So I will add a link to this. So I will first go back. I will go back to what I had previously. Like that, we have our initial planning, and it's the task here, which is the go to production, in production, that should follow task number 17. So I'm adding the predecessor here. So Nothing really fancy changed into the project, but let me check if you see it. Yes, it's really light the way you see it, but there is an additional link here. So I'm going now to take over again what I had done. Let's first say that we moved from 2 weeks to 3 weeks. So we had the move. We see that this has moved, but we still have margins. At least we agree we still have margins. So now I'm going to change this to the 5 weeks I had before, and let's look what happens now. And we see that almost all the tasks have become pink or reddish here, which means that apart that one which is the training number 2, they are all now on the critical path. It means that any additional delay on any of those red tasks would have to postpone the production set. And you see that here Microsoft Project has calculated a new production date here inside, which is by the 9th of May. So I'm going now to look at another view here, show bar, and we are going to look at late tasks. And all my tasks are set as being late. So what's happening here? So of course, I guess you understood that this project was set to start in March 2019, and we are now way ahead in 2021. When people will look at it in the future, it will be 2022, 23, and so on. So what I need to do is to move the project to a date where it can accommodate us. And I'm going to propose to move the project by April 2022. In order to do that, I go into Project here up. And for this, I can also come back on the screen, which will make it fancier for you to be face to face. And I'm going into the project part, and I'm going to select here, you see in schedule, the move project. I'm going to move the project. And here I'm going to say beginning of April 22. So it's the whole project that is going to move. So we see everything has been moved, you see, by the 4th of April 22. We see it here up. And now I haven't changed my selection for the bars. And you see from dark bars, it became all of a sudden back to reddish and blue bars. So it means we have no task that is late. And if now I untick this possibility, we don't have any change. So it means that all our tasks are here well on time. I need to check from time to time to see what's going on. Okay, so I haven't seen any question for the moment. So for the moment we have the project that is defined here. So I will remove that simulation that I did here with 5 weeks, and I will set it to 2 weeks. Okay, so we have now the moved project. We know that if anything happened, the critical path will be shown absolutely correctly as we expected it. And I'm saying that we are now in a position where we can move ahead. So we've seen here that there is a small margin, but we saw that if anything important is happening, the complete project, the deadline of the project, which is the 30th of May at this point, would be moved somewhere. So what I usually do, it's that into projects before to baseline them and to go and to present them to a board, a steering committee, I like to have margins. So in order to do margins, I really create a task into the planning of the project that I can call reserve. I call it that way, and there are certain of my customers, when they look at the planning of project, if they don't see anywhere a reserve, they just send you back and they tell you that this has to contain some reserve, because we know, especially with IT project, that unexpected things are going to happen, and it's too risky to start a project before having any planned reserve. So I'm going to do the following. I'm going here to add 3 weeks of reserves. And those reserves, you see that it's a task that I have created here, but I want to position that task somewhere here, that it plays the role of a buffer in case of overwork in a certain activity. So to do that, I'm going to say that this task has a predecessor, which is the task 17, which is the functional tests. I'm going to move it. So you see that it came here in between. It is a reserve. And what I'm going to say, it's to change the relation for the last task I have here, not anymore to the task functional tests, but to the reserve. So the reserve has as number here 20, and I'm going to change here the 17 to 20. I'm doing this, and you see that all of a sudden everything became red. It's not a good sign. And I'm going again to slip aside that you can see it much better. And what it is, it's that of course we haven't moved the task for the production set. So all those tasks as a consequence are on the critical path. So now it's the opposite. We have a margin, and MS Project is showing us that there is a critical path, but in reality it's not true, because the reserve is a margin. So what I'm going to do, it's to move the date of the production run here to the 30th of June. So we are in June 22. I set production date. Let's put it, I like to start those kind of projects on a Tuesday. Like that we have several days of the week to be ready and be there in case that something happens, and we still have Monday to prepare. So now you saw the change. You saw that all the project has gone back to blue, and we have here an additional margin. So in all, we have the reserve plus that interval here, which are composing the complete margin. Those margins, they are margins of type time, of type work. In any project, what I shall also have is a reserve, a financial reserve. So here, my complete project cost those 175,300. So how am I going to add a financial reserve? For this, it's simple. I'm going to use again the reserve that I have created because it's work for 3 weeks, 15 days of work, and I'm going to set in the equivalent costs. To do that, it's really simple. I'm simply going to add a resource to that task. And based on the rate of the resource, MS Project is going to calculate us an additional cost. So I think that in this project, integrator 3 is not involved. So I'm going to use integrator 3. So it's added here, and you saw that MS Project calculated here the rate for the integrator 3. And now we have a total cost of a project of 185,800 with a financial reserve of 10,500 euros. So just to summarize the situation, I've added a margin of 3 weeks of work plus some delay I added here. And I have 10,500 euros as financial reserves. So seeing like that at the project, I feel confident, and it's how you must feel as a project manager before to meet with the steering committee, where you are going to defend your project as being really something interesting, but also that you are assuming the responsibility to bring it as planned to the end with the resource defined here and with the cost defined here. So if you are ready to take those responsibilities, you feel confident about them, it's the moment to baseline your project. So to do that, it's also something that is quite simple here inside. We are by chance here to the part which is project, and you see that here we can set the baseline. The baseline is really now to take a picture of the project, how we plan it to happen. It will really happen like that. If something goes wrong, I have margins. If something costs a bit more, I have some financial reserve. But I'm taking a picture of how I imagine the plan, how I see the plan, because I want to track and control my project. So to be able to do any form of comparison, I need to have a reference to which I can compare. And this reference is the baseline. So it's what we are going to do. It means that when we say to MS Project to do a baseline, it's going to memorize all those data here. So we do this by going here into set baseline. And set baseline, you see that you can set the baseline or you can clear a baseline. For the moment we set it, the window shows up here. And I have the dialog box that you see. I'm just out of the zone where I'm disturbing your view. So we see here that we can set the baseline. The baseline will be called baseline. Here, if I go down with the lift, you see that there are the possibility to have about 10 different baselines. So this is useful because in a project there are changes and unexpected things which are normal. But it can also be at a certain point that there is a complete change into your project, and that the initial baseline doesn't have any meaning anymore. For example, it could be in this project that at one point they understand that there will be much more integration work and they would benefit from a better integration with the accounting system. We'll see, it's one of the things that will happen in this project, but I'm just saying now. So at one point there will be development. Actually in this project we don't have any development. So at one point we are going to add, or future modules, we are going to add some development part into the project. So we will at that point have new parties and new stakeholders involved. The way the planning goes will change completely. So does it still have a meaning to compare this to the initial baseline? The change is too big, is agreed by everyone in the steering committee, and we decide to go on a new baseline. That is to say, we change our reference because the project had such a deep change that it is now a new project, almost with a different planning. So that's the reason why MS Project gives you the possibility to save a lot of different baselines. So when there are changes, it's a good habit to redo a baseline. Like that you have a certain history, because 1 year or 1 year and a half later on, you will have meetings and some of the stakeholders won't remember why 1 year ago you changed the orientation of the project or things like that. So it's good to be able to go back and compare, or just for the project manager to see how many changes had happened and how the initial planning was. So we are going here simply to say okay, and we are going to do the baseline entitled baseline. So nothing really fancy happened here. Nothing really happened. I just want to go one step back because I think it's more interesting to see. If I go one step back, so let me just check that we don't have any baseline at the moment. Yes, we don't have any baseline. And I want to show you something which is also part of tasks here. No, it's part of view. In view, you have here the possibility to have different tables. Maybe you haven't seen this, maybe you know, but the tables that are defined here are what you can see here. Currently, we are using the table entitled entry because it's when we key in all the information about the project. I'm going to take another one here down, which is called variance. In the variance table, you see that compared to the other one, it has start and finish dates. It doesn't have duration, but it has baseline start and baseline finish. And you will see there is also a column here with start variance and finish variance. This is a different view. It's a view that I'm going to show you once I've set the baseline, because what is important that you understand, you see here, all those cells in those columns, they say NA, non-applicable. It's a way that Microsoft Project is showing you that this project doesn't have a baseline. I cannot know when is the baseline start if you didn't baseline the project. So this is a way also to check, or when you want to see the variance and you see non-applicable, what does it mean? You don't have a baseline. So now I'm going back to project here, and I'm going back to set the baseline, and I'm going to set it, and you will see what happens in this column as well. So I say simply here, okay. You see? So the change, MS Project was able to take start and finish date from the baseline. So this is also an interesting position to know and to be aware about this. So here I'm just going back to the table that you can see, and what I do, it's the entry table that I'm going to take. So I welcome all of you that participate to this session, which is on the baseline. We are currently baselining a project which is part of the CRM series of projects that I have. So we've baselined the project, and as you can see, nothing really special has happened into the project. If now I come here and I go down and show hide bars, and I'm going to ask the baselines, you see that I can show the baseline into the Gantt chart. And you see that we have a date for that baseline. It's the one that I have selected. So if I'm saying OK to that, let me just check if you see what, yes. You see that the blue bars, they have changed and they have become gray under. So the gray bars are showing what is the baseline. So in this project, for the moment, we haven't done anything. We haven't moved into the project. So of course, everything is the same, the baseline and how it is evolving into the project. Now, what I want to do, it's that we said that this project starts beginning of April 2022. And we are now going to imagine that we are by the end of April 2022. So this is also a function that you can use. A usage of MS Project is to do a simulation. So my idea, it's here to say that let's set us by the end of April and imagine a certain way the project evolve, and let's look what happens. So to say when we are in a project, I go back to the project part here, and in the group status, you see here, I can define a status day. That's the way I can set myself at some point into the project. So I'm going to say here, the status date, I want to set it, I said something like the 25th April 22. Going to say OK for that, you see. And I'm just going to go back here just to have an idea where I am. It's a Monday 25th, by chance, it's perfect. So I'm at that date. OK. So now what I want to do, it's let's imagine beginning of April the project has started, and we are looking at it by the end of April. So for that, I'm going now to start to do some tracking of the project. So we are going to say that the proposal of the project was done. And for this, you see I'm using into the task part here up the possibility to say that the project is complete, for example, here at 100%. So for this, I'm going now to zoom into the project here. And let's have a look at the first task here. It's the project manager. We see that I'm going first to remove the baseline here. And we can see that there is a darker blue bar into the chart. This shows how the project is advancing. So I'm going to say that let's admit that the two next tasks here, they are also done 100%. So we see there was the decision to start and the planning session has been done. So we are so far, we are with those tasks that are defined as completely done. You see here we have checkbox that shows that tickers, I want to say, that show that this was completed. So if now, since we are the 25th of April, so we are somewhere here. No, we are here. We see the 25th. It's not easy to take. So we are here the 25th. And we are going to give it another look here. So we are going to look again with the baselines here. And I'm going to say that, for example, here, the requirements, instead of being just 1 day, let's say that this in the end took 5 days. And you see that we have really here a change into the way the planning is set. And you see that we have the blue bars that show the actual situation compared to the gray ones, which were the baseline bars. And what I want to do, it's now to go and change the table we are looking at. And I go back to the table with the variance. And you see, if I take again the task number 9, we have start and finish date, and we have baseline start and baseline finish. And here we have the variance that comes, the variance at start and variance at finish. So this table starts to be interesting for a project manager because you can quickly find out where there are delays in the planning in the project. Of course, you see them also with the comparison here you have with the baseline. So now with that, you see the use of the baseline. You see that by tracking the information, you will see event happening into the project. So now, if I go into some of the reports, for example, let's give a look at the project overview. We will see that project overview, it's showing us that we've completed actually 2% of the project. And it is showing us here which are the milestones that will come. And it is also showing us the late tasks. So these are informations that as soon as you start the tracking can be useful, or you can simply go and use those reports to see what's happening into your project. So this was the project overview here. And I can also take, for example, here the upcoming tasks, you see. And I will take also at the level of the resources to give you an overview of the resources that will be used into the project. You see which are the resources that will work the most in the project, and you see here in the table how many hours of work remain for the different participant or team members into the project. So with that, I go back now to the Gantt chart. You've seen already one way, one reason how to use the baseline. You've seen that if you want to do any comparison into your project, you need to do this with the baseline. So we saw also what has to be done before to baseline is to check the planning. It's to check that we have margins in terms of work, margins in terms of financial reserves. And with that, let's check if there are any critical paths. And then only when we are sure to be able to manage the project and to lead it till the end in good conditions, then we are ready to baseline and to go and present and defend the project. So with that, it is what I wanted to show you with MS Project baselining. There will be more because we are going to continue on this on next sessions and next modules. We are going to make this project evolve, and you will learn a lot of things. So for everyone that participated, thank you very much. I say hi to those that said hi to me online. For me, it's constantly a pleasure to be able like that to share with you knowledge and to share with you the experience from the projects I'm leading that I have to share with you. And with that, all what is left to me is to wish you a great day. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to be informed for next sessions, and share those information with your friends. Those knowledge, they need to be shared because it's really interesting for anybody involved in project management. I'm Christian from Vision 6D, and I tell you, have a great day. Bye-bye.